Boom. And we're live. Hey, everybody. I'm palmbeachespaul, your local YouTube realtor, original YouTube realtor here in the Palm Beaches. And welcome back to my live stream, my Pints with Paul. Not sure what we're going to call it right now. It's just something fun to do for me to be able to reach out and talk to you guys, my followers on this YouTube channel, kind of get to know you a little bit better, let you ask some questions and have a little fun. But hey, guys, it is October, and that means it is Octoberfest. Hey, right? We got a lot of beer that's going to be going down here in the month of October at the German Club of the Palm Beaches. And I've got myself, of course, I got my pint right here. I got my beer, and in true fashion, I went with a Hacker Shore. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but it is an Oktoberfest Marzen. So, well, Prost, as they say. All right, guys. So, as you may have seen on the title today, we're going to talk about probate. I have a special guest that's going to be coming on here, a friend of mine who's a lawyer and handles probate law. And so we're going to talk a little bit about, what happens when one of our loved ones passes away. Maybe you live in New York, New Jersey, somewhere else, even here in South Florida. What happens when someone passes away, one of our parents or whatever, and you want to sell the property, maybe you just don't want to deal with it. You want to get rid of the property altogether, and what's the process, how that takes place and stuff. So we're going to have my friend Justin Mooney on here in just a minute, and he'll answer your questions. We'll ask him a few things. I've done a couple probate deals in my past. Most of them have been pretty smooth because everything was done ahead of time the right way. The problem lies when, someone passes away and there's confusion in who's entitled to the property, and they want to sell it quick. It's got to go through probate, and probate doesn't always work quick. So you have to kind of set yourself and know when you're putting that property on the market, and that it might take a little bit longer than a typical sale would, because again, you're waiting for the approval from the court. So, so anyway, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. And I'm just waiting to, let's see, I'm waiting to see where my buddy is. He's supposed to log on here in just a minute, so he gets logged in. But yeah, so we'll wait for Justin to get here, but appreciate it. But let me go for the comment section here. By the way, I got Justin's information down there. And if you want to leave a comment, just please leave a comment and ask any questions that you may have about whatever's going on here in South Florida. So Oktoberfest is a big event down here in South Florida, believe it or not, the American German Club. It's a huge organization here in Lantana, Florida. It's a short Uber ride away from where we're at. So thinking about going this year because it's a lot of fun. And their Oktoberfest is world class. It's the 49th year actually. And it's October 13th through the 15th. And then the 20th and the 22nd, those weekends. And you can look up Oktoberfestflorida.com. And have a couple friends that work over there at the German Club. And man, it's a great event. I tell you, the Saturdays are so fun. It's packed food, good beer, and the bands that they bring in, the German bands that they come in playing the music there, it's top notch. It's like you feel like you're in Germany. So, so a lot of fun. And then a lot of the local breweries around here will do all sorts of not only beers, Oktoberfest beers, but they'll have a couple Oktoberfest events going on. So like Copper Point and Matthews Brewing and Lake Worth, Copper Point's in Boynton Beach. A lot of those places will do some fun Oktoberfest events. So if you're local and you want to grab a good beer, if you're coming down here, as the weather may be starting to cool off a little bit, it's just it's a little bit cooler here, not much, still pretty warm out, but I was able to walk the dogs this evening and it wasn't like dying, on the way up and down the street. So the temperatures are dropping just a little bit, and there'll be some fun events. So if you're down here, reach out to me. I'll be happy to get you the information about what are some fun events to go check out for the Oktoberfest. But it looks like my friend Justin just popped in the waiting room. So let's get him on and we'll talk a little bit. So let me click on the button here, bring him to stage. Been a while. Oh,
hey, Justin. How's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, hear you just fine.
Perfect.
How's it going today, sir?
Going fantastic.
Oh, fantastic. So we were just talking a little bit about the Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
German. You ever gone to the German Club version here in Lantana?
No, but I've been to the one in Munich.
Oh, well, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. So you've been to the real Oktoberfest?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Well, that's a bucket list item. I would love to go check that out. That looks like insanity, but a lot of fun. And the German club here in Lantana, they do a really good one, and it's really good. They bring in one of the authentic bands from Germany, and man, it's they do it upright. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
So, but I wanted to have you come on because here in South Florida with real estate, we do have a lot of elderly people that live here. It doesn't have to be elderly; it can be anyone that owns property. But a lot of people retire here. A lot of grandparents, moms and dads might be living down here, right? And the kids still live up in the Northeast.
Right.
Unfortunately, they pass away. Maybe one of them has to move back to live with them. They have this property that needs to be sold. If it's a little muddy and both parents are passed away, I know there's a lot of different scenarios that you can go with this, but it's not always as simple as, hey, hire a realtor, throw it on the MLS and let's get it sold. Because especially if there's a will involved or whatever it is, how it is. So what I wanted to do today was maybe just throw some questions out to you. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some different scenarios but before we do that, why don't you introduce yourself, let the audience know who you are, what your background is. I've got your law firm on that little marquee going down below, but just give us a little background who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Justin Mooney. I've been a practicing attorney since 2015 here in Florida. My practice focuses primarily on estate planning, probate, and tax. Essentially, everything that revolves around death and taxes is what I cover. So probate is the process in which when someone dies, they have all these assets, usually in their own individual name. Probate's the process where the court changes legal title to the beneficiaries, if it's a will, or to the heirs at law, if it's intestate, meaning there's no will. So that's my practice, death and taxes.
So you pick the practices that are guaranteed.
Yeah, and then we don't have income tax here, but it's the burial ground of the East Coast, as I'm told. People are dying to come here, and they come here to die.
Yeah, so, God's waiting room, as we like to jokingly call Florida at times. But it is. It's people leave the cold. They come down here. It's warm. They don't have to deal with arthritis or stiff bones. And that. I mean, it's always been a retirement destination.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at some point we pass, and so that's cool. So. I know that, a lot of times, I mean, I guess if there's a will in place, which you've always said, I've heard you talk to us in our breakfast groups. Justin's part of one of our breakfast groups that I belong to, that, you should always have something in writing. So it's a simpler process, like who gets it. And if it's written out and we know that mom and dad pass away and it goes to the next of kin and that's it, it's a pretty clear change of title. Those are a little bit easier to deal with, right?
Yeah. So it's a little more complicated than that because homestead is a constitutional protection. So in the Florida Constitution, there's rules as to how you can choose that property gets devised under your will or your estate planning documents. And then there's, if you don't have any estate planning documents, what's the default way? So let me just provide, there's a couple ways to take property. If you're married, you either take it as tenants by the entirety with your spouse, which means when you die, when the first spouse dies, everything goes to the other spouse. They get it all. Joint tenants with right of survivorship. That means when they die, it's whoever survives last. Basically, the only difference between joint tenancy and tenants by the entirety is only tenants by the entirety can be used by married couples. And then the last one is tenants in common, which means everyone owns a proportion to what they put in, essentially.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that last one, would that apply to maybe non-married couples or?
Yeah. So the default, I believe, is tenants in common. So if you see a deed where it lists person A, person B, the presumption is that they hold it as tenants in common, and that if one of them dies, if person A dies, it goes to their estate, not to the other person.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So someone's living in the Northeast. They get that unfortunate phone call. Their parent, their loved one, whoever it is down here has passed away. They have this piece of property. They want to, hey, what are we going to do? Funeral. Okay. I don't want this property. I don't want to deal with it. I live in New York. I have kids. I have no intention of moving to Florida right now. I just want to sell it and we'll divide the money up or however. what's the first thing they should do? Obviously, not calling a realtor. I think the first thing they should probably do is call whoever's handling the estate. And if they don't have that, then they want to look for someone like you, who's a Florida licensed attorney and can handle it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It would depend on if they had a will or not, or if they're married. Let's say for the sake of having an easy example, this, it's you and your siblings, and then your dad passes away and your mom was already predeceased. So your dad has this piece of property. He owns it. It's in his name. When he dies, it goes into his, actually technically doesn't go into his estate because homestead passes at death immediately. It's really odd how it works here in Florida. It's very different from any other state. But you still have to go through the probate process to get an order of homestead, which gets recorded at with the county property appraiser, and it reflects who the new owners are. But basically, your parent dies, you contact an attorney to do the probate to get title into your name, so then you have legal authority to sell the property. That's how it works in that scenario.
Okay. So if someone was to reach out to a realtor and they mention that information, obviously I'm going to say, hey, if you have an attorney, refer them. If not, I can say, okay, I know someone that can handle this for you. Before the realtor starts getting involved and all that. It's I've done a couple probate deals where I was asked to handle, and one was really quick. They got it done nice and simple. The other one happened actually when I had the listing and the client passed away. She had cancer. She was a friend of mine, and we kind of knew it was coming, and she passed away, and this property still hadn't sold. It was under contract, but it hadn't. So that one we had to freeze everything. Yeah. And it sort of had to go through some probate. It took about 2 weeks. Yeah. We all did a continuance and said, okay, addendum to extend the contract and all that. Mm-hmm. Everyone was okay with it. That one took a little longer. I have been in the position where I'm going to put an offer on a property, and the realtor said it's in probate. Please allow 90 days to close. Yeah. So is that typical? I mean, what is the typical time frame? And I guess there's no way to say typical.
Yeah. So this has become a common frustration with probate attorneys in Florida, specifically in Palm Beach County. The judges here will not sign off on a homestead order until the creditor period expires. So the probate process.
Can you explain a little bit about the creditor period?
Yeah. So basically, when you open up probate, you have a personal representative appointed. Other states call it an executor or an executrix. Once they get appointed, they will file notice or publish notice in the local newspaper for 2 consecutive weeks. From that first publication, there is a 3-month period in which creditors have to file their claim in the estate, or otherwise it's barred. There's some exceptions there. If you know a creditor and you don't tell them the person's dead, they have 2 years to file. But basically, the judges won't sign off on a homestead order until that creditor period has expired and you've served notice on those creditors. The reason I say it's a kind of a issue with probate attorneys is the homestead is protected from creditors. So the only creditors that can take out a lien or put a lien on a homestead are property taxes by the state, the IRS, a handyman lien, or whoever your mortgage company is. Those are the only people that can cause issues with the homestead. Any other creditor can't attach their interest to the homestead. Passes to the heirs, free from those creditors except for the exception creditors. And it's frustrating because, those exception creditors would have a claim regardless if you waited the 90 days or not. So that's why there's that 90-day period that you have to wait, because these judges, I guess, don't understand that, they can't attach an interest to the homestead.
Florida. Justin, are you saying Florida's making things difficult again?
Well, so an interesting thing about Florida is we don't have a probate court. Other states have probate courts. So you have a judge who is familiar with the probate process. That's all they do. In Florida, we have different divisions. in our circuit courts, and the attorneys shuffle through, or the judges shuffle through. So you'll have a judge that was deciding civil cases, 6 months ago, now deciding probate cases. So, I don't want to say that, the judges kind of lack this expertise because they're getting rotated in. It's like me trying to make decisions on, a criminal matter. I'm like, this isn't what I do.
Right. That's interesting. Real quick, hey, Jelani, thanks for joining. Jelani's one of my followers that watches and pops in from West Palm Beach and says hello to Justin as well. Thanks, Jelani. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a good Thursday evening. Yeah, it's probate can get a little tricky because people are emotional. People want to, a lot of people, once it gets past the sad part, there's sometimes ugly greed pops in. I know that, I'm entitled to it. I know that without going into too much detail, you were brought me in, and I brought in a fellow realtor to help out on a transaction that had something like 15 people claiming, I guess some ownership to the property. And so you're trying to sell a property and divide it between 14 heirs. And one of them didn't want to, or wanted to. Well, I don't know what you can talk about.
Yeah. So basically, how that works is, as I said earlier, homestead passes immediately upon death. So if you have, like in that case, what happens when you don't have a will is it goes to your spouse. If you don't have a spouse, it goes to your kids. If you don't have any of those, it goes to your parents. If not, it goes to your siblings, nieces and nephews. If you don't have those, it goes to your aunts and uncles. And after that, it goes to your cousins. So in this case, we went down to the cousin line. We had 18 cousins, and I represented 17 of them. Another attorney represented the 18th one. And the biggest issue, which is why if you don't have any kids or you're not married and you have a friend you want to give your house to, write a will. Because what happened here is these 17 people, they have no connection to this person, but the house is in their name immediately upon death. The whole probate process is to clear up title. And normally with other property and probate, you can have the personal representative sell the property and just give everyone notice. But with homestead property, it passes upon death. So whenever you try to sell it, title companies are going to ask for, lien searches on all of your co-owners, and they're going to expect every one of those people to sign a deed to transfer title. I had all my clients actually sign a power of attorney over to me. So it's just going to be me signing for 17 people everywhere over the closing documents. So my hand's really going to be sore when that day comes.
That's interesting. Yeah, I know I talked to that agent the other day. I guess they're finally about to get on the market, and I think they've gotten through all the red tape. And so that's an opportunity that was almost a month, maybe a month longer, that was brought to me from you. Yeah. And so these things take a while. They're not always as simple as sell it and let's get the money. And okay, thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. Thanks for buying that waterfront property on Delray Beach for $80,000 70 years ago, whatever. And now we get to sell it for $25 million, whatever. But it can be interesting. We've got another viewer, Edward Banks from Connecticut. Hey, Ed, thanks for following us. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Talking to Justin. He's a probate family estate attorney here in Palm Beach County. And we're just kind of talking about what happens if you have a property and your loved ones live down here in Florida and they pass away, and you got to sell it. Maybe you live up there, the kids are back north, and parents are down here, which is common in South Florida. And how do you get that property sold with the easiest process? And first thing I'd say was you give me a call, and I'll be sure to tell you to give him a call, or how is it pointed that way? Opposite the camera. Give him a call and we'll get it squared away. But I've been able to successfully close about 4 probate deals in my career. And some were easier, some a little bit longer, but they all closed. And that's, that was the result for the family, to help them get the money and, get them through that process and do it as easy as we could without much red tape. So, was going to try to think of some questions to hit you with, something a little different. Like, what is, how do you handle this one's kind of common. Dad moved down to Florida and I guess, wasn't divorced and got the new young wife. And now the new young wife wants it. The kids are in New York going, that's absolutely BS. That dad would never give her the property, and those kind of things happen. And I guess.
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier there's constitutional protections for homestead. So the rule says you cannot devise your homestead if you have minor children. So if you have minor children, you can't do any estate planning with your homestead. Anything you try to do is deemed invalid, and it'll go by the intestacy rules. If you don't have minor children, the only thing you can do is devise the entire house, your entire interest, to your spouse. So what happens is if you have an invalid devise or you fail to devise it, what happens is your surviving spouse gets a life estate interest in the home for, so basically she can live there. She just has to pay the upkeep for her entire life. And then when she dies, the rest goes to the kids. So I've had this come up before where, the person, what did I have? He was still technically married. He had a son who was in his 20s, so he could devise it, but he can only devise it to his wife, he was estranged from. And he had a girlfriend who he moved down to Florida to be with. In his estate planning documents, he said, I want my girlfriend to have, be able to live here rent free, yada, yada. And I said, look, this doesn't matter. Your dad was still married when he died. So that means your mom, who he was estranged from, she gets a life interest in the home. And then when she dies, you get it. We did like a disclaimer so that, the property was no longer hers. It went directly to her son. But that's a scenario that's pretty common, is people do these invalid devises. Another thing that happens is if you try to give your spouse a life estate, that's also a failed devise, even though that's what they get under the statute. So there's some intricacies. But yeah, like let's say, second wife, and you want to give her the entire interest.
Right.
Kids don't want it. If that's what's in the will, that's what's in the will, and that's what controls, unless there's like undue influence or fraud or mistake, but that's a whole nother issue.
So it's kind of like in real estate, the contract's sort of the rule. Like in a contract in real estate, the judge typically goes, what was in the contract? So somewhat like, so if the will was written, which is a contract in essence, right? It's a legal document. So they're going to revert to that almost 99% of the time, unless you said there's some circumstances that would say otherwise. Yeah. Interesting. Some of that stuff sounds like a Lifetime story waiting to happen.
Exactly.
It's crazy. What kind of advice would you, so for someone who comes back and watches this video and they happen to catch it, maybe they're starting to plan, they want to plan ahead. They want to think, okay, let's make sure mom and dad are straight and everything's good. And, the kids want to talk to them, and then usually the parents have this stuff already done, but not all the time. Yeah. And what would be some good advice that you would recommend someone that, get themselves set up? Like, hey, mom, dad passed away. We know everything's new. Do you have your paperwork in order? People get older, and they don't always think about it and stuff. And so sometimes they might not. So sometimes it's helpful for the kids to, as long as, hopefully everyone's doing it from a good place and not, whatever. But
the whole reason for estate planning is, I have estate planning documents. When I'm dead, that's it. Like, I don't care what happens really. The whole reason I put them together is for the people I leave behind. Right. So, your parents are putting these documents together, or, when you have discussions with them, you're like, I want you to put these documents together. So there's no question as to what you wanted. But if I had a client or any friend come to me and say, hey, my parents, live in Florida, what documents should they have in place? My recommendation would be, if this is a first marriage situation, it's just going to be, your parents should create a joint trust. The property gets transferred into the trust, and along with all their other assets. And then when the first parent dies, we don't have to worry about doing any probate. When the second parent dies, we don't have to worry about doing any probate. All the assets are in the trust. They don't have to go through probate. You don't have to pay an attorney like me $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 to probate the assets. The reason I'm giving such a big range is in Florida, there's a reasonable fee schedule provided for attorneys that say the first $1 million of assets, if you charge 3%, which equals $30,000, is deemed reasonable by the court. So, you know, if your parents have assets worth $1 million, instead of paying an attorney $30,000 when they die, you have them find an attorney that can prepare a well put together joint trust for, you know, $2,000 to $5,000, and it's going to save you a lot of headache.
Wow, that's some good stuff. So
yeah,
that's definitely important to know. And you don't think about it, but it's like a lot of us don't think about, you know, death and what could happen, like the funeral costs and all that stuff, right? So
right.
Getting older, you start thinking about that stuff. It's like, oh, better be more prepared for that. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, we're at like 25 minutes into it, and I appreciate you coming on, man. Really great having you. You're a great speaker, so thanks. You got to go. And he used to make donuts. He did this thing for a while. He made some donuts, and I don't know if he's doing that anymore. So Justin's kind of a cool guy, and him and his wife are doing some donuts. I didn't get to try one yet. So you got to do the donuts, man. I went to.
It was so much work, you know, making donuts out of your house and then taking them to these pop-up events and selling them. And yeah, it was tough. Also, a lot of people don't, at these events, they don't want to pay, you know, $3 for a donut that's like you know, this tall. And I'm like,
I know you travel a little bit. You guys have been like getting road warriors and like to hop on the road and go do some stuff, and you're able to work remotely, which is something I admire so much. I wish I could do that in real estate.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Vortex Donuts in Nashville?
No.
Oh man, it's all vegan. This is my son. He likes it because of food allergies. My God, they were so good that he made us on our way back from North Carolina last weekend. When we wanted to leave, my wife's like, "I want to get up to leave at 3," and he goes, "No, we're leaving it. I want donuts, so we can't leave till 7." So we went, and he got his way, and we went by Vortex and got a dozen donuts for him to eat on the car on the way back. And it's like, oh man, those donuts are they're crazy good.
Yeah. So, we used to go to like when we used to live in Boca, so going down to Miami wasn't as big of a drive, but we used to go to the Salty Donuts. My wife.
I've heard the Salty Donuts really good. Yeah.
It's fallen off. I got to be honest. Like, like the first like 2 or 3 times I went, I was like, this is the best donut I ever had. So good. Like I have a very Instagrammable picture of it. But the last like 2 or 3 times we went, I was like, I don't know if it was like nostalgia that made me like it or if they've fallen off, because I think back then they had like 2 or 3 locations, and I think they have like 6 or 7 right now.
I think they have one at the Square in West Palm, right? Salty Donut. I think there's
one. And they have one in Orlando. I think they have one in Atlanta. I think they opened one in Tampa, and I feel like sometimes with like these, you know, small chain restaurants that, you know, once you start expanding, you can't maintain quality control.
Right. Well, that's the same with like craft beer industry, right? If they whatever stuff. So like the craft beers or people that keep it a little bit more. Donuts are cool, man. I like donuts and good coffee. So anytime I can find a place and having a kid that does because of food allergies, we always look for cool places to go. So there's a couple neat ones I want to go check out. See, we went from law to donuts. It's this channel. We talk about everything. It's like, it's all good, man. It's about having fun. So, but well, listen, man, I appreciate you coming on. We had a couple of people pop in, and the beauty of these is that I record these videos. So people that really need someone like you or myself, they'll come back, they can watch it whenever. It's a searchable thing, and they can ask those questions. So you may get a call, say, hey, I saw a video, saw you talk to palmbeachespaul and stuff like that, and help them out. And of course, anyone that I come across, I've been dealing with a lot more 55 and older properties because I'm 57, right? So it just kind of rolls that way. But anyone that comes across, I'll be sure to shoot your contact information out to them. Perfect. And I appreciate you coming on, man. I know you got a little one, so I'll let you get out of here. But we'll get a coffee or beer soon, all right?
Sounds good, man. It was good seeing you.
All right. Well, thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. And if you guys want to reach out to him, reach out. Make sure you can see his information there, his number. But I can definitely get his email and all that. Just reach out to me, and I'll be sure to put you in touch with him. And I'll put a link in the regular video that's recorded on YouTube. I'll leave a link so you can reach out to him and email him for any questions. But Justin, I'll let you run. Thanks, brother. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, man. Take care.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
All right, guys. So that was Justin. He's really cool, nice guy. He's in my breakfast group, and just a really good guy, and good attorney to help you out with that. So, but yeah, you know, Florida, man, it's a retirement state. A lot of people move here to live those golden years, and unfortunately, when they reach their peak, right, you have to deal with these kind of things where someone may pass away, and you have to sell a piece of property, and it's not always as easy as just let's get it sold. So, if you ever come across that situation, I'd be honored to help you out. Reach out to me. I have great resources, people like Justin. I know title attorneys who can handle all the title work, the title companies here. It's a little different than in New York where lawyers handle everything. Down here, we have title companies who have an attorney, but that attorney is for the title company. He's not like your personal attorney. You can always hire one if you want to. And so it kind of helps with the whole closing process and doing everything. But, you know, for the most part, it works. We've hundreds of closings, and it works pretty good. Sometimes there's some bumps in the road and just kind of work through them. But knowing people like Justin to help answer those questions and help get through that tough time so you can unload that property or whatever you want to do with it is always a good thing to know. So appreciate it. If you reach out to me, my contact information is down below as always, and I'll be sure to put Justin's information down below. But that was a good beer. It's like, for those late viewers who are watching, there you go. That's what I had. Octoberfest, good German beer. Gotta love a good Marzen, and it's October. So actually, this is a gift I got when I was in like the 8th grade in San Antonio, and this girl I knew went all the way went to Germany, and she brought it back and gave it to me. So I thought it was like a cool gift. So I've had this thing since I was like in 8th grade, and it's a real German Stein, man. It's this thing's heavy. It's legit. Right? You see it? Fill me up with beer. I don't think I've ever put a beer in it. Just keep it on the shelf. Looks nice. So, all right, guys. Hey, that's 30 minutes with me here on YouTube. That's about it. I'm not going to do the hour-long videos because unless I get a lot of questions and people asking them, it doesn't make sense to. So, been gone. We went away, went to a wedding. So I didn't really get a chance to get too much done on videos. For the Palm Beaches Paul channel, I will get back to doing some videos, doing some tours. So stick with me, stay to the channel, and I promise you I'll have some new stuff coming up, showing you I got some new 55 and older communities I want to do a video on, and a couple other things coming up that are worth showing you guys. So, but all right, well, that's it. Hope everyone has a great Thursday evening. Prost. And if nothing else, I wish you guys a great weekend. And hope the Texas Longhorns beat OU, Hook'em Horns. And please subscribe to Palm Beaches Paul. And I appreciate you guys. All right. Until next time, wherever you are, get out and enjoy paradise. We'll see you soon.